Hello, everybody. Welcome again back to the Sweet Talks podcast. My name is Chantel, aka Sweet Talks 777 on Instagram.
And my name is Nikima.
All right, and we've still got our special brothers with us, both Jordan and Ambrose.
Now.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is what is it like to be a black man working in mental health? And only y'all can answer.
Can I just say, I'm just excited to have you two brothers here. Like, it's been
Yeah.
so nice. Like, it's just
Yeah.
the wealth of knowledge and experience just between you guys is immense. And I appreciate the fact that I know you both.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say, and I'll just move on because I get too sentimental sometimes.
Thank you very much.
I like
You're
that.
welcome.
I like that.
Seriously.
Thank you, definitely.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, back to the question.
Yes. So what is it like to be a black man working in mental health? I think let's start off with Jordan, because I kind of know Ambrose's story a bit more than Jordan's.
Cool.
So you need some background?
Yeah, go for it.
Why not?
Oh, okay. So I started engaging in therapy. I studied psychology of sport and exercise at undergraduate. I did a little bit of volunteering, did some group therapy stuff in Birmingham.
Okay.
I was also a sabbatical officer, so president of Manchester Met Students Union for 2 years before
Woo.
I came back to Birmingham and started the group therapy work. So did that for about 6 months, and then decided to apply for the high intensity CBT course at the University of Birmingham, and was fortunate to get on. And I've been doing therapy for about 2 years since then.
Nice.
Cool.
So for me, my experience in therapy, in mental health, outside of my current working environment, has been pretty similar. So, and I know me and Ambrose had a conversation about it earlier, but it's really similar everywhere, right? The demographics are the same.
Yeah.
The people who work in therapy are really similar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually female, usually around middle age, usually white. And it hasn't been that diverse since. I think it was interesting studying because a lot of the clinicians that were on the course with me at the time were all of the similar demographics, so
Yeah.
late 30s to mid 50s, white females, and the majority of the teachers were middle-aged white males.
Yeah.
Normally how it goes.
Yeah. So it was really, but I think that's it. I think every course that I've been on has been the same. The demographics have been the same. Sometimes I'll be sitting in a room and it'll just be me and Nikima. And the rest of the people will be
That demographic. Yeah.
All well-meaning, all well-hearted, all dedicated to the job.
Yeah.
I've never met someone else in the therapeutic industry who hasn't been well-meaning, who hasn't been dedicated to the job, who hasn't been hardworking, etc. But it's been exactly the same. I think it's interesting when you hear people talk about mental health, and you see people, particularly in and coming from the student movement, how many people are dedicated to engaging in mental health with black people in particular.
Yeah.
And how many people actually are able to become professionals or become clinicians or become and engage in therapeutic work. But overall, my experience has been pretty positive. I'm fortunate that I have people like Ambrose, that I have people like Nikima, that I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been blessed that I've had great mentors and people that I can have these kinds of discussions with.
Yeah.
But again, as we've alluded to before, my experience isn't the same as everybody's. I can imagine if I didn't have the organisation I work for.
Big ups.
And some of the people around me and being in the industry, I probably wouldn't have gotten the course in the first place.
I heard that.
So if it wasn't for people like Ambrose, like Adrian,
Big ups.
like Nikima,
Bless.
who were able to help me really and
Josh.
prepare me for these, and Josh,
Yeah, God bless.
to help and prepare me. That I don't know if I would have gotten the course in the first place. But I think it's interesting as well that all of the people that I named have at one point come through the same organisation. And I think
big ups that
I
organisation.
think that's interesting in itself. That,
Yes.
I'm not sure how many other black therapists there are around, and we know a few.
We do.
A few because of the organisation that
We do.
all came through. So I think it's very similar. It's very vanilla.
Yeah. No pun
Pardon
intended.
the
No
pun.
pun intended.
Ah man, pun intended. But you know what I mean? It's
We do.
You know what I mean? And that's,
Yeah.
that's been my experience.
I hear
Sometimes it's
that.
like you sit in rooms and you travel to conferences, you go to far places, and,
And it all looks the same.
Exactly the
Yeah.
same. If you'd have asked me before I got here to describe the environment, it would have been exactly the same as I thought it would.
Definitely, I hear that.
And
I hear that.
so yeah, like it's a great profession to be in. It's very rewarding.
Very.
We have the opportunity to engage in really in-depth conversations, not just with clients, but with peers as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
But I think I would have struggled more if I worked in the NHS, for example.
Yeah,
Makes sense?
I get that.
Yeah.
1000%.
And I know that a lot of my therapist friends in London who are black have more struggles than I have.
Yeah.
And I know people that have worked with us and then have gone to work in the NHS have struggled.
Because we are an anomaly.
Yeah.
And I guess being a black male therapist is even more of an anomaly.
Yeah. A lot of the time, you're the only male in the room, regardless of race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So the
yeah.
most recent course that I'm on at the moment, I won't say where it is.
Yeah,
but the
please
most
don't.
recent course I'm on at the moment.
But that's a big factor, you saying that, actually, where it is. Yeah.
But the most recent course I'm on at the moment, up until the other day, I was the only man in the room, full stop.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's one other guy there at the moment, but another white guy. But the majority of the time, you're the only guy in the room. And then if there is another guy, he definitely doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does fully make sense.
So, yeah, I think it can be challenging at times, but I don't think I think it's. Again, I've definitely been fortunate to have black male therapists around me and peers as well. So even people who are on the same kind of level as me, like Josh, for example.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like when me and Josh worked together, and hopefully he listens to this, but when me and Josh worked together and Josh left to go and work in the NHS, I felt like I was losing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I felt like I lost. I was hot. You was there with me.
Yeah.
I come into work and I said, "Yo,
You felt it.
bruh, Josh is leaving." You know, like, do you know what I'm saying? So like, it actually, like, it affected me.
Yeah.
Because
Big time.
me and Josh were the only guys there at the time.
Yes, that's what it is.
Me and Josh were the only guys there at the time. We were the similar kind of age. We had the same kind of experience, same level of experience, and it was like,
Yeah.
like my boys leave. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Like, and it was fine. Obviously, I'm still able to do the job, and it didn't. But it's like, it's interesting that you can have like, it was interesting for me to have like, you said that black people in general and black therapists in general are anomalies, and black males are an anomaly within an anomaly. So to have two in the same organisation at the same time,
Brilliant.
we had the same kind of training, had the same worked with the same within the same formats, etc. Was an amazing experience, and I think that's what kind of won me a little bit. Like, me and Josh would bounce ideas off each other, like, I did this and did it. You know what I'm saying?
Like peer.
And again, I said I'm fortunate that I work in the organisation that I work in, because we have, at least it's culturally
Competent.
Culturally competent, and at least it's like, I work with black people in it. So
Yeah.
I work with black staff. I work with black or Asian staff. We don't have to. There's no watering down. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no watering down. We don't have to water nothing down. We can talk the way we talk.
Talk your talk.
Yeah, we can talk. We can walk our walk. We have the like. Do you know what I'm saying? There's none of the other microaggressions that people experience outside. None of the other explanations that people experience. People are very blunt and very open. It's culturally, everyone respects each other. That kind of that kind of stuff. And I think that definitely makes it easier to be in an environment where maybe the only man for
I hear that.
Appreciate that.
But I think it's important to have more black therapists, black male therapists. I think it's important to again increase the amount of young black men, black men in general, but young black men in particular, that access therapy.
Definitely.
So
yes,
definitely. What about you, Amber, sir?
Wow. I was just kind of sat there listening to your experiences, Jordan, and it's amazing how my initial contact with the mental health services was way back in 1999? No, in the year 2000. And how that experience is really similar to what you've gone through still, and what you've gone through quite recently.
Nothing much has changed.
Nothing much has changed. I mean, in terms of the health sector, I suppose, in general, men are not that represented. Men in general, whether it's accessing the services or kind of working in the services, comparatively, there are a lot less men. But then it kind of begs the question why the majority of the high positions are held by men. But that's a different show. Yeah. So through my experience, there were a lot of, in comparison, there were a lot of black men within nursing when I was doing my training, but mainly women. And then once you get onto the ward, you find a lot of black low-grade nurses, males, females sometimes going to go up, but then again, top level is
White males
or females, and then that's nursing, and then literally probably about 10, 15 years, 16 years after that, going back to uni, retraining, again, the same thing there again. So in my cohort, there were fortunately 2 black guys and about 3 white guys, and the rest were females. So men in general within the health sector are definitely underrepresented, especially black males. But what I found was that in nursing, I was not respected as a nurse as I was training, because I was not expected to be a nurse. There was so many times that I was kind of looked at and treated as one of the HCAs or, the kind of care staff or even the cleaning staff at one point.
Wow.
Because on placement, you don't wear a uniform, you wear your own clothes and whatnot. And a lot of the patients wouldn't listen to what I was saying because I was young and, well, I'm not young, but I look young. I look young. So there was all that I went through, and the point that you made about, especially all the kind of hidden agendas and aggressions that you experience within the NHS, that was one of the main reasons why I kind of purposely left and went to work for that organisation that you mentioned, who used to have a private hospital, the first ever black-owned private hospital
in
I
Birmingham.
did not know that.
I think it was the UK, isn't it?
Why?
The first ever. And the first time I came across that, I was like, oh my God, I want to work here. And I was fortunate enough to have been one of the pioneers in terms of the staff members there. And we weren't anti-white, but we were just pro-black, which is what Nikki said last night. Yeah. So it wasn't a case of saying that we don't want to treat, or that we don't want to treat people who are not white, but
not black.
Yeah, but we just wanted to promote an alternative African-centered treatment approach to people of African descent, because they were going to respond to that differently. So we kind of did things like drumming therapy. We did drama therapy. We looked at, in terms of the food, the kind of food that patients were eating. We advocated a treatment process that did not include medication, which was obviously a taboo. But the hospital was very successful. But then if you put that in a wider sphere of the medical model, and you've got this hospital that's doing this kind of unique, pioneering treatment approaches, and they're not using medication,
and it's effective,
and it's effective, what's that going to need to the wider spectrum?
Wow.
So, money talks, I suppose.
Pharmaceuticals talk.
Pharmaceutical talks, exactly. So, unfortunately, the funding kind of dried out or wasn't given, and that hospital kind of closed. But as African-centered as they are, and as the soldiers that they are, they rose up like a phoenix and developed
I love it.
a therapeutic organization,
Nice.
which is again the only kind of, as Jordan said earlier, representing its people for the people. Yeah.
Nice.
So my experience as a black man in mental health has been quite varied. Yes, there are kind of well-meaning individuals from all cultures.
Sure.
If you go into nursing, if you go into the health sector, there is largely a party that cares about humans per se.
Yeah.
So you are largely a nice person, a decent person to kind of be wanting to kind of work in that sector. But nonetheless, we're not represented. But the question then is, what's the reason behind that? Why is it that we're not represented? Initially as men within that sector, but then as black men in that sector.
Yeah.
Is it a case that we don't see that as our area? Is it to do with the fact that we find it very difficult, particularly as black men, to kind of open up and talk about things, especially in therapy? That kind of cultural taboo that we have, where even now the majority, and I'm sure you probably all share this, the majority of my clients, I can count on my hands how many are of colour and males. And I think I think you're quite fortunate, Jordan, because your organisation kind of caters specifically for that. But it'd be quite interesting to kind of know how many of those that you do support are males. Because when I was based there and I was working there, I only ever had probably about 3 or 4 male clients, black male clients.
Definitely far less males than any other demographic. I think we're quite fortunate at the moment that because we see people that are of a younger age as well, that we get quite a good amount of young black men. And I think there's been a bit of a push towards people referring to our service, like external self-referrals coming in. So you find a lot of young black or black men in general that will be referred through other services.
Nice.
So there has definitely been an increase. It's still not a big number though. They're still by far the smallest demographic.
Yeah.
You find that when black men do engage in mental health services, it's at the extreme end of the spectrum.
It's when they're in crisis.
When they're in crisis. But yeah, we do get more, but it's still not a lot. I think in my 2 years, I've probably seen in my year, just over a year, I've probably seen maybe 7 or 8, maybe.
Wow.
But at one point, we had a
whole 12 months. Yeah, wow.
It's not very many.
And
it's
in
not
a
a lot.
12-month period,
It's
it's
not
It's
not.
not a lot. We did have a black men's group at one point, though.
Oh, okay.
So when me and Josh
Yeah.
together ran a black men's group, and that was really successful.
I can
So
imagine.
we had a solid during a 12-week course, we had a solid 7 or 8 boys that would come
Nice.
pretty much every week.
Nice.
And a lot of them ended up leaving and going to university and doing different things.
Nice.
And that was really successful. And it didn't turn out. We did a lot of psychoeducation stuff. So we talked about psychological issues. We talked about different things. We did some goal setting and behavioural interventions, that kind of stuff. But the majority of it was about talking just about people's existence and giving someone an alternative environment to just be able to be
yourself.
just be able to be, just to be able to socialize, to be able to talk about your grievances, etc. I remember one of the guys was in drama school and he was talking about the experiences he had in drama school and he was saying this is different, like being black and being in drama school is difficult.
Can imagine.
And so it was
Can
just
imagine.
about saying how they were relating to each other and saying it's not just difficult for you, it's difficult for me as well. Like, I experience it difficult as well. So it was really interesting. I think
more forums are needed like that.
But
Big time.
I think it was really, really successful.
Yeah.
With that particular group, and I think, but I think black men are open to talking about this kind of stuff. They're just not
I
open to
agree.
talking about it in the formats that we have.
You
Yeah.
know
Does that
what?
make sense? Like,
Yeah.
It's interesting you saying that.
the reason I say that is because if you sit down in the barbershop, for example,
That's what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
that's
you
it,
see-
but
you
that
see
is
black
what the
men-
barbershop is,
you
isn't
see
it?
black men talk. You see black men talk about stuff, but I think the idea of masculinity and it feeds into the idea of why black men aren't in caring professions, because the idea of masculinity means that women care about care and men don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's even similarly within academic circles as well. How many clinicians end up turning into male clinicians end up turning into
Academics.
theorists
Yeah, it's
or
true.
academics or teachers?
Yeah.
They move quickly from engaging in hands-on therapy to moving higher into theorizing and
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying like
Yeah.
How much?
so how
So
this
that means you need to come up with a therapy now, Jordan.
with a therapy.
Yeah.
A therapy approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. We'll help you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Easy. Absolutely. Thank
But that is
you.
so true, though.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like there's any, I don't want to say pressure.
You've said
I'm going to have to use the word pressure because that's what that's there. Innit? So, yeah, would you say that there's any like internal pressure that you guys maybe feel towards your community and trying to affect that change that gets black men to engage within mental health services or emotional well-being services earlier? So like you knowing the knowledge that you have, having the experiences that you have, and knowing that, okay, black men tend to come into services when it's at crisis point, and it's the ones where they are getting sectioned, basically.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of, again, pressure is going to have to be there, and it's the only word so it's coming to my head, but do you guys feel any pressure or
What obligation?
obligation? Thank you. Love Nakima. Like, any obligation to that
Yeah.
at all? You may or may not.
Yeah,
It's just a question.
I think there's an obligation to give people the option. Do you know what I'm saying?
Get you.
I wouldn't think it would be responsible to allow someone that I knew to engage or to be suffering without offering them some support. Does that make sense? And the support can't come from me.
Obviously,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
my friend, I've offered I've recommended therapy to my friends before. Like I know friends who have gone through severe bereavement, like multiple bereavements,
Yeah.
and just said, "Bro, like this is an option if you're willing to do it."
Sure.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or they'll come to me and say, most of the time they're referring girls, or their girlfriends or their parents or stuff like that. And they say, "Oh, my mom's suffering. Can blah blah blah." blah.
Yeah.
But I'd feel like it was irresponsible not to give people an option when you know better, innit?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? When you know how this could end up. And no one wants, like, you don't want to engage in, it's dangerous for black people to engage in the system at that level, right?
Yeah,
Because,
definitely.
Like, legitimately, people die in it. Like,
Yeah.
people
Yeah, they
literally
do. They
die.
do.
It's like you wouldn't recommend someone going to, like, you wouldn't, like, if you could prevent
wouldn't
someone from going
advocate
to
it.
prison,
Yeah,
you'd
yeah.
prevent someone from going to
Sure.
prison.
Yeah.
Not saying that all of these cases turn out, some people need that kind of support, but I think it's important to be able to acknowledge that the system doesn't necessarily work in our favour all the time. It's not the best thing for us. So if you can
Most
prevent
definitely.
that, then I think it is partly our responsibility because we know better to be able to support people in that way. It doesn't mean you have to run out your bed in the middle of the night.
No one's asking you to do that.
No one's
please.
asking you to do that, but
Yes.
it would be irresponsible for me to observe a friend or colleague or even a member of my community and not
Yeah.
at least try and assist them or give them the option to be. You can't force anyone to do anything, but
Sure.
Yeah.
at least
I
give
heard
them to opt. I feel like I won't call it a pressure though. I just say it's a responsibility. Does that make sense?
Irresponsible. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Ambrose.
I would completely agree with that. Definitely, 100%. I don't think there's an obligation as such, but sometimes within our community, we kind of tend to give the impression that, or rather, society tends to kind of put the pressure on us that we are representative of our community.
Yeah.
So how you behave or how you're seen
Reflects.
is automatically seen as how
Black people are.
black people are. So by default, some people do kind of absorb that and take that on board and think that it's their responsibility to kind of be that that pioneer to kind of spearhead the change within that community. But as you said, it's not your responsibility. You are limited in terms of what you can do. If you are within the vicinity of somebody who you clearly can see needs that support, needs that intervention, all you can do is offer. You can drag that horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Definitely. But that's one need that an organisation that I used to work for kind of identified. Unfortunately, due to funding cuts, they are no longer in existence. But they drew me from the NHS to kind of go and work for them because the model that they were offering, and this was prior to the hospital that I went to and joined, the model that they were offering was not just to treat the individual or the young person, but to treat the whole family.
Okay.
And they focused on a project that was working with young black men at risk of joining gangs and addiction issues. So young children with dual diagnosis. So I had a caseload of about 30 families, essentially, where I would support the young person who's been newly diagnosed, as well as their family members. And what I liked about that job is that it took me away from the medical model of, as I said in a previous podcast, kind of going to see somebody at home and kind of spending 10 minutes with them, if I was lucky, just to kind of see that they're adhering to the medication, that the house is safe. It's, you know, it won't burn down, they've got food in the fridge and so forth, to being able to spend an hour at a time with the whole family. So I'll sit down and kind of find out what's happening with that young person, get the parent angle, get the brother angle, you know, get the perspective, I suppose, of that whole family, and to also try to educate the parents and siblings on what the child is going through, and for that child to see the impact that it's having on the rest of the family, and for the family just to talk, and express and kind of share what's happening. And that was quite a powerful piece of work. That was a powerful piece of work.
Did you do that for, sorry?
That was for about 18 months. 18 months, yeah.
Nice.
But it was a project that was meant to be, actually, it was longer than that. It was a project that was funded by, can I say the name?
Yeah, go on.
Barrow Cadbury Trust, to last 12 months. But because of the amount of work that we were doing, we sent off the feedback from the parents and young people, and we did the final project report and recommended that the project gets extended. And they saw the amount of benefits that the community was kind of gaining from that, and decided, I think it was the first time, well, that's what they told us, it was the first time that they kind of refunded a project that was only meant to be funded for 12 months.
Wow.
Which was fantastic. But again, when that pot dried up,
It dried up.
Yeah, definitely. And that's
Tends
one
to
of our
happen.
issues, isn't it? Can we have that as a...
We can have that as a topic.
A topic.
If you
Why
want
is
to.
it that third sector organisations are, the majority, kind of depend and are so dependent on grant funding? Why can't we
Generate
self-source
funding.
ourselves? Yeah,
It's a good question. It's a
And
good
how we
question.
because we have lost a lot of services, a lot of good services because of that.
Mm.
Lacking resources.
And ones that
funding.
didn't have to adhere to like NHS structures and bureaucracy, I guess. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And I suppose that's why we have kind of branched out and set our own organisations, and I'm
Rightly so.
kind of drumming for Jordan to do the same soon once he does the foundations of what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can all build our own empires and then
Yes.
join together and have a
Consortium of
massive
us.
what's that word with the C?
Conglomerate.
Congress.
Yes.
Conglomerate.
Nice.
Say
In Congress, you know.
Congress.
You know, I'm thinking of impeachment, blood. Thinking of impeachment, I am.
We need
How'd
that. We need
Trump get you?
Like, we're gonna because you know, I was
We need
thinking
that.
we're gonna trump all the other ones.
Okay. All right then. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, man. All right.
Yeah, that's that.
But yeah.
That's an interesting point there, Ambrose. I think, definitely trying to. I think maybe even coming together as Black therapists might be a useful thing to try and figure out how we can do it without relying on grant funding and have it as a third sector organisation. I think that would be a good idea. Very good idea.
Definitely.
So Ambrose is heading that. So I guess
No
one
pressure.
of you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I guess one of the penultimate questions I'd have for you guys is, would you encourage other Black men to join the profession?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Of
Of course.
I was about to say, but I will not elaborate on this. Go
Also,
on.
I think definitely. I think I'd support Black men from a wide range of professions also that have a wide range of experience. I think that's important.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they might not have to come from the health sector, for example.
That's right.
But I think it might be the case we have the ability to be able to engage Black men from different communities, from different with different personalities that can engage in kind of like a in therapy, trained to be therapists to engage in therapy. That way you may be able to engage a wider spectrum of people. Black men care about stuff, innit? Like
Yes.
Black men care about Black people as well. Do you
Yes,
know what I'm saying? Like,
they
as much
do.
as people may not may not want to believe so, but black men care about black men as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to be able to try and spread as far and as wide as possible and see who you can get to be able to engage and entice other black men into one seeking help and one delivering help.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not an overnight fix, but that's my utopian worldview kind of thing.
One hand washing the other.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like it. Senor.
I suppose to expand my yes, it's not just in therapy. I would support any black man in joining a profession or becoming a professional in any field that they have an interest in. Definitely. Although I think generally there's a need for more black men in every sector. It doesn't matter what it is, finance, economics, science, teaching, therapy, nursing, but to kind of to follow their passion, to follow that dream, and if it's something that I can help and support you do, I'm always here. I'm always here.
And you know where to contact him.
And you know where to contact
Yeah,
us.
because he's been hollering out the whole of his name in the last podcast, and you'll find it.
If you haven't started following by now,
You know what I mean? If you're not
and
following by now,
joining
I'm pretty sure you can just
all
jump to the
major
last one and
social
you'll find it.
platforms. Nice.
I think my last question for you guys. Wait, Nakima, if you got a question, you didn't even.
I'm just enjoying the questions.
So
So
am
you
I.
go with
Okay.
the flow.
I guess my last question for you guys would be: how has being a black male therapist impacted you personally? Sorry, that was my last one though.
Give him a moment.
I would give you guys a minute.
It's made me more emotional, if I'm honest.
Okay.
It's made me more emotional.
Good emotional, bad emotional, because there's quite a lot of emotions.
I don't really differentiate between good and bad. It's just an experience for me.
Fair enough.
A bit of both.
A bit of both. But
Nice.
but prior to starting the course, I was a kind of a boiled egg. I had a hard shell on me.
Oh, okay.
I find it very, very difficult to open up. I find it very, very difficult to express myself, and not just openly, but even to my partner, and not to self-dissect, but whether that's because of my deep Catholic upbringing or whatever. But
I mean, that's possible.
but yeah, whatever. But then when I joined the course, there were times when I actually cried after certain lectures. The university that I went to,
Big ups.
I won't mention it, but it's a very
But big
fantastic
ups.
university in the West Midlands.
Big ups.
Their course is the only course through the IAP program that kind of fosters and encourages self-reflection.
Big ups.
The other unis who do the same course don't really do that. So we spent every Friday afternoons just kind of just sat in a circle, just talking, expressing ourselves. And I found parts of me that I thought wasn't there, or I didn't even know was
That was
there.
Big up to that lecturer.
Big up to that lecturer.
I
But
experienced the same.
yeah.
Big ups.
But the kind of most rewarding thing was learning to not just going through that process, but learning to accept that it was okay for me to do that. Up to the point where I would sit down and watch X Factor and find myself just welling up in tears.
What, for the stories?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But if you've
But
not
if you
been
felt that
used
emotion,
to
then it's fine.
expressing
Seriously.
yourself in that
Yeah.
way, and now you've been taught that it's okay,
Yeah.
it's all going to come out. Floodgates.
True. It's true. It's
was-
just like your triggers, isn't it? If you haven't been able to do it for a while.
Yeah.
So now that's your triggers.
So yeah, so I've become really emotional,
That's okay.
which is okay.
It
Which
is
is
fine.
okay, and I'm okay with that.
Me too.
But it's enabled me to. I think I've always been quite an understanding and empathetic individual, but I think it's heightened that, and it's developed that, and it's allowed me to kind of grow in that area. And I absolutely love with a passion what I do,
Good.
because if I connect with people instantly. As soon as you kind of sit in that chair, and the first couple of sentences, the way how you sit, the way how you position yourself, the words that you use, the tone that you're using, straight away I can kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah.
And that to kind of be able to do that just kind of blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Yeah. So that's
Magicians out here.
Yeah.
the impact.
It's
Yeah.
your Jordan.
I think I agree. I agree with what Amber said. I'm not sure if it made me so much. I think I was emotional already, to be honest with you. Like I
Okay.
think I was quite an emotional person already.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it made me more empathetic.
Good.
I think it completely changed the way that I kind of looked at the world from a philosophical point of view. Also, like I was always brought up in a way that made me face challenges. Anyway, there was never a good enough excuse not to do something that was the right thing to do.
God bless.
In my household, do you know what I mean? Like, if it's the right thing to do, doesn't matter how difficult or uncomfortable it is.
That's
should
what
do
you're
it.
supposed to
Yeah,
do.
that's what you're supposed to do.
Got you.
So that was always a rule in my kind of home and stuff like that. But I think it gave me like a theoretical framework to work from, and a lot of the stuff was I was able to relate to particularly. But it definitely made me look at my friends differently, made me more patient with people because you can observe some of the difficulties people go through from afar. You can observe some of the challenges that people face, some of the things that people do, and it makes me challenge my friends a lot more. Not in like an aggressive way, but makes me realize how I'm talking to people, how I'm engaging with people, the importance of engaging in a certain way.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
And even when people come to me for advice or talk to me about their different difficulties, not even in outside of a therapeutic manner, just about how people like making people be critical in it. I think that's really important. Like what therapy teaches you to be as critical as possible. Like critical about your thoughts, critical about your behaviors, critical about why you do certain things. And I think it's made me even more critical than I already was. So it's like, if I'm doing this, what is the deeper meaning behind what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Like, is it important? What does it do? What is going to be the consequence or the potential consequence? Is it worth even thinking about it this much?
Yeah.
Right. And I think I think it's helped me to ask myself those kind of questions and be majorly inquisitive. But it's also supported me to be a better friend, to be a better partner, because of the inquisitiveness that I've
Agreed.
developed. I say to my friends all the time, yo, take it easy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it sounds trivial, but take it a little bit like, yo, take it easy on yourself. Take it easy on other people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't. There's no rush. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Like,
And they
doesn't-
probably haven't heard that.
yeah, and I think that's how it's changed me. Not to say that it's slowed me down anyway. I just think I was a quite mellow person in general. I think most people say I'm pretty laid back, but it's definitely made me say, actually, you know what? Yeah, there's not the same internal rush that there was once. Once was.
I like that.
And again, a lot more patience with people. A lot more patience with people. That I think is super important to understand why people do things and even be as critical as you can about why people do different things.
Yeah.
Even to people that you don't like. You can be empathetic to people that you disagree with.
It's very
You know
true.
what I'm saying? And I think that's the most important. And we'll all know from our experience, we've sat in front of clients that are the complete opposite to us, that are completely removed from anything that they believe in, like, and have different kind of completely different worldviews, but we still treat them the same way. We still engage in therapy. We still understand the position that they come from, right? If any one of us is sat down with a client that's racist,
Yeah.
I've sat down with
Yeah.
you sit down and I think, I sat down. I think it's like, and you have to put yourself in, not put yourself in their shoes, but you have to understand the position that they're coming from.
Yeah.
They haven't developed these thoughts out of nowhere, and I think
Yeah.
that's what it's engaging to do. If I was 3 years ago, I wouldn't even have wasted my time engaging with that kind of person. But it's given me the ability to say, actually, I understand, and I can at least be critical about. I don't have to agree with you, but I can be critical about why you've developed the ideas that you developed, etc., etc. And I think that's probably the main way that it's changed me.
I like that.
Good. I like it. Well, brothers, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Can I pose one question?
Of course.
Very, very, very quick, just to Nakima and yourself.
Sure.
What's your experience or view of black men in the mental health services
Oh, God.
As clients or?
as therapists or professionals?
I think I've only, outside of yourself and a couple of people that we've worked with, I haven't. I think the only time I have done was someone who was a mental health nurse. And outside of that, no. And he was the only one that I knew for quite a long time, to be honest.
Have you ever met any black male clinical psychologists?
No.
Never.
No, lie. 1, 2.
Oh.
I met two.
Where?
Two. One was I was trying to do a placement for, but he worked in it was with a school in the local authority, so I wouldn't get enough practice
Educational
time.
psychology.
He wasn't an educational psychologist. He was actually a counselling psychologist, but he worked with educational psychologists.
Because every time I go to like different universities in the psychology departments, I always look on the board. You look at the board.
Yeah,
Of course,
it's
it's
not
important.
Really, it's not really. Yeah,
Not
I
it's
haven't
one.
seen one.
Not
Like,
one.
I haven't seen one black woman. I've seen one black woman. That's it. But I haven't seen one black man.
I currently have a black woman. My psychology teacher that I had, one of my module lecturers. He was a black man, but he was of Satan. Not because he was a black man, he was just an evil guy.
Okay.
Satan descent.
Yeah, he was of Satan descent. I can't even say he was of African descent. He was just of Satan's descent. He was just an evil guy. Really evil guy.
There's loads in America though, like you see loads in America.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any clean
No, he wasn't even a clinical psychologist. I think he was I don't remember what it was.
Forensic?
I think he majored in abnormal psychology. He was a doctorate, but he did do a doctorate, but I don't know. I can't remember what it was in, but it wasn't clinical or forensic or anything like that. It was something else. But yeah. So I've had 2 black teachers.
Yeah.
One of them was male, one of them was female. And that's over 7 years of study. Can you imagine?
Black therapists only through that wonderful organisation in which we talked about earlier, and that's the only black therapists I know. So
I know one.
Adrian,
I know one outside. There's no one outside. In Birmingham.
Yeah, in Birmingham. I'm sure there are, but I just never met them.
Yeah. Same.
So we're gonna have to set up a
If
forum
you're out
for that.
there, yeah.
If you're out there, please give us a
Make
contact.
yourselves known.
Make yourself known. The Instagram is
You
Sweet
are-
Talk 777.
Yeah.
Make yourself known. And we'll try and get
Like
you on the show as well,
gold.
actually. It'd be great.
like diamonds.
It would be good.
Yeah.
Cool.
But guys, thank you so much again.
It's been a
Thank you
pleasure.
so much again. And yeah, we'll let you go home because it's late. So love you guys. Thank you so much. And
Okay.
we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you guys for listening. Bye-bye.
Peace out.
Bye.